Welcome back here to Worldwide Video. I'm with the legendary screenwriter, director, producer, Mr. Dean Devlin. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about your movie coming up. It's Bad Samaritan. Please share with the world, promote it.
So it's a dark thriller. It's one of those scary movies where when you get in a theater, you're gonna hear a lot of people screaming and then laughing about the fact that they were screaming. It's really about a moral decision and a kid who makes the worst choice possible, and then decides he can't live with himself having made that choice, and he has to make amends. He has to change it, and so it's a real story of redemption. It's powerful, it's scary. David Tennant, if you don't know his name, he was the guy from Doctor Who, and he was in Broadchurch and Jessica Jones. And the young kid, his name is Robert Sheehan. And if you've never seen the TV series Misfits, I highly recommend go binge watch it right now because it's amazing and he's incredible in it. But he's also starring, he's the lead of the new Peter Jackson movie coming out at the end of this year. So see him in my movie now because he's going to be a gigantic star by the end of the year. Yeah. May 4th in a theater near you.
Great, go see it, Bad Samaritan. And I know you produce a lot of movies, and one thing that, tell me about Transit. You acquired Transit, yeah. It's a Filipino movie. Tell me about it.
So this is just an incredibly beautiful film, and it's about the Filipino immigrants who have gone to Israel, and you know they had a law there where just because you had a visa didn't mean your children did, and so they were actually shipping children out of Israel back to the Philippines without their parents. It was a horrible situation, and so this was a story beautifully told, shot entirely in Tagalog and in Hebrew. And it's told from the point of view of 3 different people. So it's the same story told 3 different times, but from different people. So each time you get it from their perspective, you learn a little bit more. And what was really remarkable is even though this was highly critical of something that was going on in Israel, it was actually the Israeli Film Board who supported the film. And and it had a lot to do with trying to change things there. So it was a powerful film. It affected change, and I'm proud to have my name on it.
That's awesome. More power to you. So where can they check out that?
I don't know.
It's out there somewhere, Transit.
It's out there. It's been playing at festival circuits. It's been winning all kinds of awards. I'm sure if you Google it, it'll show up where you can find it right now.
That's awesome. So are you going to be picking up more Filipino films in the future?
Well, it really depends. You know, one of the things I always try to talk to the Filipino filmmakers is to shoot in English because it's very hard. You know, I saw this beautiful film about Manny Pacquiao as a young man. It's such a great film. It's so good. And I grabbed the filmmaker by the collar and said, why the hell didn't you shoot this in English? I could have sold this all over the world. So, you know, hopefully his next film he'll do he'll do in English.
So tell me, for Bad Samaritan, what was your favorite thing about making that movie?
My favorite thing was working with David Tennant. I'm a huge Doctor Who nerd. And so to get to work with my favorite doctor was just more fun than a barrel of monkeys. I mean, it was just a blast. I would sit there on set and I would forget to say cut. And my first idea would be like, say cut. Oh, yeah, cut. Because I was like, I'm watching it like a fan. So yeah, that was the most fun.
That's awesome. Learning about your mother, Rita Hernandez. What did you learn from her?
Well, her story just, you know, it was so moving, and I didn't know most of it until her deathbed. You know, she, her parents had been divorced before the war broke out in, World War II, and he was, he'd already remarried, and he was in the United States, dancing. He was a professional dancer doing tango, and my grandmother had 3 children in the Philippines and was raising them when the war broke out. So the U.S. government asked my grandfather if he would go back to the Philippines as a spy. So yeah, so they brought him back. There's a beautiful book on this called Bahala Na, which I highly recommend if you've never read it. Anyway, so they bring him back. They dropped him off a mile offshore. He had to swim to shore, and he worked in the Manila Hotel. And what he would do is they gave him a camera, and he would take photos of the plans, because you remember the Japanese took over the Manila Hotel. So he would put knockout drops in their drinks, and once they were asleep, he would take photographs of the war plans. Well, one day, he got caught, and they brought him to the local jail to execute him. But what they didn't know is that the guy who ran the jail was my grandfather's best friend from school. So they colluded with each other to fake his death. And then they faked the death of 10 of the worst murderers in in the thing, and they became his army. And they ended up being in the jungles, and they literally were slitting throats at night of sleeping Japanese soldiers. And in the daytime, with nothing to do, he was teaching them how to tango in the jungles. But meanwhile, the word had gotten out that he was doing that, and so the Japanese tried to find my grandmother and my mother and my uncle and my aunt. And so they ended up going on the run. And this is a real tribute to the Filipino people. They spent the rest of the war going from house to house, being hidden by strangers who didn't know them, who would hold on to them and hide them for as long as they could until they felt the heat, and then they'd go to the next place. And my mom, at the time, she was 6 or 7 years old, and she had like seen dead bodies on the ground and things like that. That's things that, you know, a young girl shouldn't ever see. But, you know, they made it. They made it through the kindness of Filipino strangers. And then when the war was over, they decided to come to the United States. But I didn't learn most of that until her deathbed. Wow. Yeah.
There's a movie.
There may be a movie.
So
a mini-series.
You hear that? It's coming up. It's coming up.
Exactly.
I'm so incredibly happy and thankful and grateful that you took the time and sit down with us here on Worldwide Video. Just one more question. Sure. What is your message to digital technology now, filmmakers? What's your message to filmmakers that are grinding and trying to get this?
Well, you've got this gift. You know, right now, if you've got access to an iPhone and some editing software, you can make remarkably high-quality movies. Steven Soderbergh, one of our best filmmakers, just made an entire feature film with his iPhone. I mean, this is a gift. But how I believe it should be used by young filmmakers is make as many films as you can. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes long or a half hour long or 2 hours long. Make it, because what you also have now is the ability to distribute your own stuff. You can get it on YouTube. You can put it on Facebook. And if you have any talent at all, people are going to start to recognize your work. You don't have to wait for someone else to tell you that you should get a job. You don't have to wait for someone to choose you and say, do it yourself. Just go out, tell your stories. Tell them from the heart. Tell them with passion. If you have that passion, then that passion could become infectious and other people could feel it.
Wow. Thank you so much. More power to you. And gosh, it's just an honor to be here. Make sure you guys go see the movie Bad Samaritan.
Theater near you, May 4th.
May 4th.